I'll pay you later. Holly.
I have a question. Where does church planting fit into our vision?
That's an excellent question. I'm glad you brought that up too. How does church planting fit into our vision? And I'm very glad you asked that question, because one of the things I've been praying through and thinking through with our peer group that I meet with is, and I've been talking to Clint Ashley, our former pastor, about this. I've been asking Clint, how can our church, with all these leaders and all this resource, how can we begin to invest in, maybe it's a church that's struggling, maybe it's a pastor that's struggling, but how can we invest in either starting churches or strengthening churches in the Northwest? And that's an excellent question, because I think that is definitely something I want to move forward in the next few months if God calls me here as your pastor. Because I think, again, we look at all that God's given us with the leaders and the resources, and if we only focus inwardly and we don't focus outwardly, then I don't think we fulfill the Great Commission. God has called us to invest in the lives of other people. And the Northwest is the most unchurched area in the country, with about 3% of the people attending church on any given Sunday in an evangelical church. So it is critical that we begin to focus outwardly. And now, what does that look like, Holly? I don't know, but I think it's something that in the next few months, if things work out where I come as your pastor, that is going to be brought up. One of the things that we're going to do, I'm a part of a group called the Center for Excellence in Congregational Leadership, and Clint Ashley asked me to be involved in that. And we go to Wisconsin twice a year, and that's where we meet with our peer group. And one of the things we're doing at the next meeting is we are encouraged to invite like 6 to 8 of our church leaders to come and talk about vision and strategy. And as we begin to move toward that meeting in March, that would be definitely one of the things I would bring up, is not just what is our vision for Emmanuel, but what is our vision for the Northwest. How are we going to invest in people in the Northwest? How are we going to invest in churches? How are we going to start churches to help reach more people for Christ? So excellent. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Okay, excellent question.
Any other questions?
You have university students on here, but you didn't direct talk about that because you're trying to say.
Yeah, I was trying to. University students is a good question. Also, of course, that's another area. Just by default, where we are, God has put us, around 30,000 students. So it would be unwise of us not to focus on those. I'm glad Andy asked that now, because, of course, Rick and Lisa Schumacher, along with some of the other leaders, Bernie and Paige and John and Nita Corey, some others who have stepped up in the past couple of years to help strengthen our university ministry. One of the things we have budgeted for is a semester missionary, and I actually, through the Northwest Baptist Convention and other avenues, we applied for a semester missionary that hopefully would come in January to begin working with Rick and Lisa to help provide some leadership once they're gone in July or somewhere like that. And so that's kind of our plan right now, is to bring in a semester missionary. We could probably keep that person here for a couple of years and to help develop a plan and a vision for university ministry, and develop leaders at the same time, and hopefully a lot of student leaders. So that's kind of the quick version of university ministry. Did that answer your question? Okay.
What is your vision about prayer?
We're just going to pray.
Increasing.
We're going to pray. I'm sorry. Well, we talked about this at staff leadership team meeting back in April, I think, when we went. And what we were talking about is we want to be more consistent with having seasons of prayer. Like Barbara's already been talking recently about planning like we did a couple of years ago, a 24-hour prayer time where people come to the church and sign up for certain hours. I think that's going to be a key for us. Another thing that I would like to see us incorporate that I've been thinking through and praying about the past couple of weeks and I haven't talked to staff about it, but I'd love to discuss it, is how we can incorporate prayer more into the worship service. I know we pray in the worship service, but it's usually, at the end of the music or the offertory. And nothing wrong with that. Those are good times of prayer. But I would love to see us dedicate, 5 minutes in the worship service where we are actually praying maybe for a specific need that day, or maybe there's a group of people who are on a mission trip who we need to be praying for during that time. So I'd like to see us dedicated, have dedicated time during the worship service that we make it an emphasis. And plus the seasons of prayer are the two things that I'm initially thinking of. Barbara, did you have anything to add to that as far as prayer? I know we've talked about different things.
Yeah, I was just thinking about this, and I didn't know whether it would be an appropriate time to bring it up because you and I haven't discussed it yet. But I've had a vision this year for prayer cells in the church. We started with the Wednesday morning prayer time and a few years back, and we had, Chris, 26 people or something or other in the beginning, and it was really strong and going, and it kind of dwindled over time. And I've attempted to get one going on Sunday mornings, and I've had one person join me on Sunday mornings, and I've been doing this for about a year now. And I mean, it's okay. I can use a long prayer time on Sunday mornings, so that's great. But the thing that is happening is that not everybody's able to pray at the same time, so we kind of lose hope. We lose, well, I can't pray because I can't be there at 7 o'clock on Sunday morning or 7:15 on Sunday morning. I would like to see us have a network of prayer cells throughout the church. And I would like to see us having people in the church praying about 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I think we can do that if we operate on anywhere from 2 to 6 people in each cell. And maybe you're a group of young moms with little Haley over there, and there's a good time, a nap time that's kind of common for 3 or 4 of you, and you can get together and have those little babies on your chest and be praying together for an hour at a specific time during the week. And maybe you're a group of engineers at SEL who work together and you have pretty much the same schedule, and you could meet for a half an hour at a certain time every week. So it doesn't have to be at the church. It doesn't have to be in the church. It doesn't have to be the same time as everybody in the church. It's really great if we cover all of our lives with prayer and not just an hour on Sunday morning or Wednesday morning or whenever. And so I would like to see, I've had one particular person come to me several times and say, I've really tried to make it on Sunday mornings, but I just can't seem to do it. And I'm going to go to her and I'm going to say, well, when can you pray? And do you know a couple of people who would pray with you at that time? Go for it. That's your prayer time every week, and you agree. When I was a young mother with little kids like Jenny, I was part of a group of young mothers who met at 9 o'clock every Thursday morning for coffee and prayer. And our kids ran around in the basement and we prayed together and healed relationships amongst each other by praying for each other. But we made a covenant, even though we weren't together every day, to pray for each other at 9 o'clock every morning, because that was our meeting time. And that was a very neat thing. So I'd really like to see us have cells of prayer all throughout the church, and maybe 24/7. I think that would be cool.
Yeah.
Gosh, Barb, I remember those times when we had people meeting and praying, and how powerful that was. And I think God really used that at a time in our church when it was shortly after 9/11 that President Bush declared that Thursday to be a day of prayer. And so we threw this prayer service together here. I don't know how we advertised it, but we somehow let the community know. And many of our members and regular attenders strangers came to that prayer service, but twice as many of people that we just didn't even know came to church that day because they knew this was a place they could come and pray. And I think it'd be really awesome if we could emphasize that so that you can tell your friends our church can pray for you and how powerful that is. It's risky to share your vision and to bring a weakness out like this because it's a weakness in our church. And so I want to thank you for bringing that out. I'm actually feeling personally convicted about prayer right now. So. Well, actually, I was thinking about breaking up. If we got time at the end of this, I'm going to want to take a couple more questions. I wouldn't see why we wouldn't take this as an opportunity to break up and do a little praying right now. I think it'd be a good thing. But does anybody else have any questions for Terry and his vision?
One more. Okay. I'm a university student, so I'm busy, so I don't know anything. What is, I guess, Emmanuel's relationship and interaction with other churches in Pullman? And, you know, is the vision for that to increase or to change or something? What is that look like? How do you work with other churches or interact with them?
That's a good question. I think that what I found in Pullman, at least from the pastors I talked with, is that people are kind of busy doing their own thing. It's weird because Moscow community is a little different from what I understand. Because Moscow, I was at a meeting there about a month ago, and they actually have a group of pastors that meet every Tuesday. In Pullman, you don't see that, and I don't think it's because anybody dislikes the other church. It's just because we tend to be so focused on doing our own thing. But when you talk to some pastors about doing that, it's just not happening. And some of the churches are new. I mean, I meet with Keith Weezer from Resonate probably once a month. Keith and I meet, and I'm beginning to meet with Dan Bailey over at Trinity Baptist in Moscow. He and I have talked about doing some things. Our church is combining to do some things together. Resonate has talked to us about doing some things with them. It just seems that things we plan at times don't coincide with calendars, but we've talked about it. We just haven't done it. So we're not opposed to that in any way. But I would say Resonate's a church that we're probably likely to work with. Trinity Baptist in Moscow, just because we're all Baptist churches. I've talked to Aaron Couch, is that his name? Or Crouch? Couch. And real life, he and I have had 2 or 3 conversations and been meaning to meet for lunch. So I'm starting to develop some of those relationships, but nothing's formal right now.
There are some of those churches, but it's young life.
Yeah, good question. Yeah, and he is in touch a lot with Campus Crusade because they meet in our building on Thursday night. I spoke there briefly a few weeks ago, and we're open to partnering with Crusade. Right? Andy emailed Jason, one of their leaders, this past week about partnering with them on the October the 2nd Ministry Day. So we're trying to put some things in works, but we just don't have anything, a formal thing. That would be something that could come from university ministry also, that they could help initiate that with their leadership. Not that I'm telling you to do that, but you may want to encourage the leaders there to do that, to encourage them to say, to partner with other university ministries around the community, and we're definitely open to that. Eric, did you have